Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the PHNX Rising Show, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. My name is Ramon Chavez. I'm super happy to be here today with y'all. Alongside me is my partner, Owen Evans. How you doing, sir?
I tell you what, it's been a weird Tuesday. For those of you who don't know, obviously the press conference normally on a Tuesday. It wasn't today. It's going to be on Thursday instead. So bit of a weird week to look at in that sense.
You think it's like a 4th of July hangover? Like, hey, we don't want to be talking to Owen kind of thing.
A literal hangover, or I mean, which way do you want to approach this?
Maybe. We have a great show for you guys today. Of course, we're going to be talking about the Orange County game that happened this past weekend. Of course, it was a 2-2 tie. Definitely going to be talking some of that game. And also, we're going to be giving out our mid-season grades for the entire squad as well as the coach. And, of course, we're going to review – he's already sighing. We're going to review what happened in the USL this weekend and also previewing tomorrow's action. Wednesday's coming at you fast, so definitely some USL action on Wednesdays. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started, Owen. Orange County came into town on Saturday. I feel like for the majority of the first half, they were the better team, I should say, and they definitely showed it as far as their goals are concerned. They got an early lead. Rising was able to come back twice, though, from being down in the deficit, and ultimately the game ended in a 2-2 tie. Now, that did break their losing streak, which was 4 in a row coming into that game, but it kind of left a sour feeling in some people's mouths because we all kind of felt, and I'm including myself in this, they could have done a little bit more with those last 10, 15 minutes where they were up a man, and seemingly with the crowd behind them, the momentum behind them, and they should have kind of closed it at home a little bit better. But that kind of sums up the season that they've been having. So, Owen, what are your thoughts? What were your thoughts on the game, and how are you feeling about it?
See, it left a sour taste in the mouth for me, not necessarily because of quite that, but more the fact that right now, Phoenix Rising has to prove that they don't belong where they are in the table. They're currently sitting in 11th. And as much as people might want to take positives, as much as people might say, well, look, we'd lost a few games. We had to get something as positive points, all of that. I feel like we kind of have to point out the fact that when you draw at home to a team in 12th, you are proving nothing about the fact that you deserve to be any higher than 11th.
Yep.
And that's what's disappointing here is that the team should be higher than 11th. And we'll get into this, I'm sure, now with all these player grades. The team itself should be higher than in 11th. For what reason they're down there, there's a lot of factors building into that one. But unfortunately, what could have been almost a statement of we're down here at the bottom of the table, we shouldn't be, turned into anything but. And so, 2 points left on the table ultimately.
No, definitely. And that's what I was going to definitely talk about as well, that even though they were able to get a point, and actually, if you look at the rest of the Western Conference, and I was going to make this point earlier, that only 3 teams were able to get a victory. The rest of the entire Western Conference either drew or lost this weekend. So as far as the moment to take advantage of the situation, it was this game, because if they were able to get those 2 extra points, now they're a little bit closer to 7th, which is the last playoff spot. And it was just an opportunity that, they let it slip by. Now, I feel like they played better. I think progressively each week we're seeing a little bit more fire with the guys, and even if they get down, I think Rick even said that in the press conference after the game, that they didn't start yelling at each other. They're like, you know what, let's just go do it. Let's just get back into the game. Let's go and fight. So I've been noticing those little things. Do you feel the same way as well, that they kind of been inching a little bit more forward progressively as far as just the body language and kind of not getting down on themselves too much once they go down?
I don't know. I feel as though there's still an element of the first halves of these games have been poor. Maybe that's an improvement, right? I guess, because in Loudon you were losing 4-1 in the middle of the second half as opposed to by the halftime break. It got worse after the halftime break, but it's still not good. It's still half a performance. I just don't feel as though in these first halves the teams have really shown up to compete in the way that they really should be. And look, again, it's things that are happening. That the fire that we saw in that last 10, 15 minutes is coming off of a mass confrontation. Should we really be needing that to kick things off? This is a team that long has had to worry about kind of finding ways to motivate itself because it demolishes the league almost. You get to the halfway point of the season, and we're used to staring at this team and saying, okay, they're going to finish first, second, or third. They've pretty much sealed up a playoff spot, barring a disaster. How do you find motivation then for those last few games? And the problem now is that they shouldn't need the added motivation. They're on the outside looking in, and so
that's what I question so much, because the 2 goals that Orange County scored on Saturday, they came off the first minutes of either the first half or the second half. So why, like you're saying, they're looking at the playoffs from the outside in. Where is that fire at the beginning of the game? Why can't they just come out, throw the first punch, control the game, and ultimately just play rising football? Like, it's not, to me, it just doesn't make sense why these guys aren't coming out like saying, you know what, like, this is it, guys. Like, if we're not getting these points, they're pretty much call it a season, and that's the big question that I have. And I think ultimately kind of falls mostly on the coaching and how they're prepared heading into the game and coming out of halftime. But it just continues to happen, and I throw my hands up every single time it happens.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because the thing about professional sport, and typically you look at it, is people say, well, what's motivating you? What's motivating you? And often people will say your paycheck should motivate you. Well, these guys aren't earning anywhere near as much as a lot of the people that we typically would say that about, right? Of course they want to go out. Of course they want to win cups, but there's a lot more to it. And I feel like we'll get into this now as we move on to the grades and opinions and views on that one. But it just feels as though there's a lot of confusion as to what exactly is going on. There's just the situations that people are in. Maybe they're not the most comfortable with. And so we're getting into a point now where you just kind of stare at it and go, okay, why isn't it clicking? Well, there's quite a lot of ways that we could approach that, and probably all of which are factoring in here.
For sure. Defensive mistakes again cost Finney, especially in that first goal. Jose was I think one of the main culprits there. He turned over the ball in the midfield, and we talked about this a couple of weeks in a row now, that if they are able to limit those turnovers in the midfield, because Rising is not a good transitional defensive team. Musa was caught out of position. He was kind of caught baiting a little bit, waiting for a pass after that turnover. And just left a huge gap in the middle for Iloski to score the first goal. And it's just frustrating. And even John Morrissey from USL Tactics, he's like, I'm sorry, Ramon. Like, he even tagged me on it. He's like, I'm sorry. Phoenix is just a really bad defensive team. And there seems like there's no improvement from week to week.
Yeah, and it partly comes along with the fact that who's in there. It partly comes from the tactics, which historically have always left Rising at times vulnerable at the back. Again, Rising's approach was always attack is the best form of defense. And the problem is when the attack isn't there, then the defense isn't there either. They don't have it to fall back on. And so it's just frustrating to watch. It's very, very frustrating to watch, because that just at the end of the day, if they can't find a good number of goals, they're probably going to concede a fair few at the other end.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's segue over here to what players stood out to you on Saturday. I had Orange County Zalowski. I know you don't, maybe not too many for on the Rising side, but I thought he played well. I believe he's the league leader right now in goals scored. So definitely not. I mean, I wish he didn't score that many goals against Rising, but he had a good performance against them. The other one, of course, we got to talk about him, Richmond Antwi. Richie Rocket. He was able to pull Rising back into the game in the waning minutes of the game. So what are your feelings about Richmond, and is it fair that he's only played 200 minutes this season?
Well, this one we will definitely get into when we start talking about the grades for Richie, but it's good for him. It's good for his confidence. It's good for some of the players around him as well to see I think that's probably the one positive I took out of that game was seeing him and seeing that confidence he'll get, and the fact that you'd hope now he can turn into a guy who can be that impact player off the bench, that he can be the guy you can bring on late in a game to take those kind of shots on and maybe get you something if you're looking for a goal late in a game. But yeah, I mean, Milanolowski, let's be clear here, he is a fantastic player on a subpar team, or at least a team whose results show them off to be a subpar team. And at the end of the day, the league table does not lie. They sit in 12th out of 13. So, yeah they're not looking too great. But Milanolowski has been on another level for Orange County. As you say, he's currently top, I believe, of the goal scoring chart there for the league. So 12 goals, I think, this season.
Yeah, 11 or 12.
Good number.
Like yeah, for sure. Of course, I think I saw Michael here talking about this gentleman, but Lamine Jane, he was able to make his debut for Rising this past Saturday. We talked about it when we were at the Wild Horse Pass. Owen, I felt like he had a decent to okay game for being in there for that amount of time. He had a couple good runs. He did miss that, what would have been the go-ahead goal in the final minutes. And I think during the ESPN Plus broadcast, they were saying that when you're a player that is new and you're kind of excited, you probably rush your kicks a little bit or your timing when it comes to sort of stuff. So how did you feel about him? Is there a little bit of an upside to his game? I know you're not a fan. You weren't a huge fan of the signing, but I felt like he looked okay.
Yeah, but that's almost what we said all along, right? This guy can do whatever on earth he wants to do process-wise. It's not about process. You know what? Every dribble you have, phenomenal, great. You know where that gets you in the league table? Absolutely nowhere. You know what you get rewarded for? Putting the ball in the back of the net. The problem that we have here is that everyone had kind of looked at his stats. Everyone had looked at them and said, you know what? I'm not convinced by this guy. It feels as though he's someone who, whatever he does outside of this, can't seem to find a goal. And so what happens in his first game, he misses a golden opportunity. And we get people like Michael, who's currently in our chat here, calling him, I believe further up here, where is it? Let's have a look. Mr. Decisive in front of net, putting the open shot 5 yards over the bar. It's just confirmation to people. Okay. The expectations were low. When you see that in the first game, it doesn't breed confidence. And I fear that's the problem here. People will have written him off on that performance. And unfortunately, when you look at the historical track record, I can't really blame them. There's no goal scoring record here over a long period of time. So why are you expecting him to be a game changer now?
True. Yeah, no, I think the stat that stood out was he had like 12 starts or games with Atlanta United 2, and he was not able to score. So
it was 11 games. I don't know if he made a single start. He only played a little bit over 100 minutes for them, I think. It was yeah,
not confidence right there for sure. All right, Owen, let's keep it going here. This is something that bothered me once I heard about it after the game, and you let me know your feelings in chat as well. Let me know how you're feeling about this. Luis Seijas was there at the game on Saturday. I saw him there. He was not dressed to play. He was not part of the starting 18 or the team for the 18. But he wasn't even on the bench. I know there's been some stuff going on with injuries and some issues behind the scenes. But at the end of the game, Rick said that there was a clerical error to be at fault for him not being part of the 18 on Saturday. Explain to me, how does that happen? And how does a player react to being told, hey, man, I thank you for coming, but you're not in the 18 because we messed up? Like, how does that happen?
So for anyone wondering now, the literal answer of how did that happen, okay? I don't know how many people know too much about how USL roster rules work. What does happen here is that 48 hours before each game, teams are expected to submit to the league a 23-man player pool, and that 23-man is all that you're allowed to pick in and out of. Now, you can add people sometimes if they arrive are registered slightly later. It does require permission from both sides for players to be added, though, after you're in that late stage. It's just bad. It's a bad error. It will be the exact first thing that I'm going to ask, and I give this away now. We got a press conference coming on Thursday. It's going to be the first thing I'm going to ask. Have you registered Luis for Saturday?
So you're telling me
because
there's a
I
23 player
feel as
pool.
though
Rising have a little bit over 23, if I'm correct.
off
So
the top of my
how
head,
does this?
we could work that out, but
Mind blowing. When I heard it, I was legit furious because that just
yeah,
doesn't make sense to me.
it's a bad mistake. When you're in a position like Rising are in at the moment, it's a bad mistake.
Yeah, for sure.
I
All
don't even
right.
know what to do except laugh at this point. It's just
Yeah, not good. McVee, I saw Channing there at the game. He was joined with Luis. I think it was Marcus Epps. He was injured. And then Anguiano was there as well. So those were the four that I saw at the game. I don't know if you saw anybody else, Owen. That's pretty much it, right?
there were a few other people around. Yeah, look, it's it's a I don't know with some of those, some of them may be technically not injured, but they're not really up to match fitness. It's that's always a tough one, right? Because when you've got someone who's been out for a few weeks, especially as Channing has been, you've really got to consider the fact that they'll stop being injured before they are ready to play. They're not going to be ready to play for a couple of weeks, you'd imagine, or at least not able to make a serious impact for a couple of weeks.
For sure, for sure. And to wrap up here, Owen, does the 2-2 tie, quell some of the Rick Shantz, fire Rick Shantz kind of chance that we saw at the end of the game, or are they just going to continue to escalate if the team doesn't get these W's?
Well, they, I feel as though when they return home after this current away trip coming up, which is 2 games, of course, Memphis and then Louisville, I fear that the chance may be louder by that point. They're 2 very tough games coming up. I feel as though the last game after the game, yeah, the 2-2 draw didn't really quell any of it because they were chanting it after the game. They want Rick and Bobby out is the chant from the South End. But I don't know. The impression that you get from just kind of hanging around, seeing a couple of owners almost looking like too many smiles for personal comfort. And I know we discussed this after the game as they were chatting with Rick after Saturday's match. I don't know. It's and we'll get onto that. We got Rick's grade coming up later,
Talk about that a
so
little more.
I'm sure we'll really get into that.
All right, y'all. And like Owen said, we usually have updates for you from the Tuesday's press conference, but that has been moved to Thursday. So we'll give you those updates further down the week. And just a little heads up, we're not having a show on Thursday. We're actually going to have a show tomorrow. So if you want to get these updates, make sure to follow us on our Twitter account, PHNX__rising, for those updates from the press conference. All right, Owen, let's take a quick break here and talk about our friends at OG's Brands. OG's just launched their first ever limited edition seasonal flavor, and it is Pina Colada, a perfect pineapple and creamy coconut blend, which you can enjoy. Actually, you can order it today. So if you guys actually go to ogsbrands.com, you guys can check out OG's online. And also, you guys can also check them out on Instagram at OG's Brands. And you can also find their products at your local dispensary. And just remember that you must be 21 years or older to purchase. I feel like I said "and" too many times. But yeah, check them out. Always a good time. And if you want to relax, I feel like it's like already like a rushed week. I don't know. Whenever there's a Monday holiday, I feel like my body's like out of like whack or alignment. So maybe need some relaxing with that OG's brand. So make sure to check them out. Again, that's ogsbrands.com to purchase your very own OGs. All right, Owen. Ready for some grading?
We're gonna get okay. Before we kick in with this, I kind of want to give a little bit of rationale because I know that I'm gonna get some. I'm sure there'll be some comments from the chat that maybe we've been too generous, actually, with some of these players.
I know. I don't want you guys to get too mad.
I'll say off the bat that I was careful about giving grades that were too harsh for a very simple reason. I don't necessarily want to scapegoat this on individual players, and I feel that to give someone a truly low grade, they have to be really responsible for some problems here. I feel as though this is something that is more a widespread meh rather than individual players that are specifically causing this. So let's bear that in mind. I've also tried not to just be too negative in general, which is a change
Yeah.
for me. It's a change for me. I'm sure
Thank
that
you, Owen. Appreciate that.
yeah, but apparently I actually gave some nicer grades than Ramon did. But then
I
again,
will.
I also gave a couple of harsher ones as well.
I'll do a disclaimer as well, Owen, because I know there's plenty of players and relatives and people that know the players, and I don't want them to come out and have social media and tell me why I'm doing it so harshly. There are a couple grades that I'm gonna slightly change just because of the past performances. I made this list last week, and Owen made his grades a little bit further down the line. So just a little heads up.
Made
I'll
it
give you
this
some
morning.
context. There you go. So yeah, I'll give you some context on why those grades, and then Owen has some notes as well. So we're starting with the forwards, right?
Yeah, and let's make sure, by the way, as we go through these, add your own ones in as we talk about each of these players. So let's start with Santi Moa. We've given him some pretty rough grades here, right? I gave him a D plus. You gave him a D. I mean, let's be real here. His goal scoring has, for the most part, eluded him.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're not really seeing is any alternative playing style out of him on the wing. You know, he's taking a lot of shots, but he's not really doing a lot with them. So, I mean, Ramon, what do you want to say on this one?
Yeah, this one is one of the ones that I would slightly change. I would probably go a D plus, even a C minus at this point, just because of the last few games. I feel like there's been some improvement in his play. Yeah, the goals aren't coming. Definitely a big drop off from last season, and I think that's one of the main reasons why people may be upset with him, is that they were expecting a little bit more, especially with the Santos departure, and Santi was kind of being looked at as the guy that was going to take up the scoring load or maintain the rhythm that he had from last season. So that's the reason I gave him that grade.
Mm-hmm. So let's move on then. I see that we've got some people here who, what is it here? Michael saying D is right for Santi. We got another one here, which is Santi should be at an E. No goals or being dangerous.
Reese is already saying something.
Right, let's move on to the next player here. So Joey Calistri, right? I went with a C here. The reason is this guy is a jack of all trades, master of none, and it actually makes it really hard to evaluate him, because what makes him good as a fullback isn't what makes him good as a central midfielder, and it's not as what makes him good as a winger. So the best we can really say is he's never really stood out as bad. He's never really stood out as great this season. So to me, he's a very average looking C over the course of this season. Again, he fills in a lot of roles, and it's hard then to judge, really.
Yeah, no, and I agree. He's been played as a winger, a midfielder at times, playing on defense. So he does everything. But I just feel like we can't really, like you're saying, we can't really judge him too much. And yeah, when he's played up top, he's missed a lot of chances that probably could have given Rising a few more points, honestly, if we're really going to be talking about it. So it just speaks to the player that he is, and not that he's done anything incredibly wrong or anything like that. But yeah, I think C is a good grade for him.
All right. Richmond Antwi. I know you're going to change your one here, Ramon, but I'm just going to start off by saying, so I gave him a B. In his role, he's doing a good job. The problem is it seems to be finding that role and actually using him in that role, which is that he's not a guy I really want to see starting. He's not fit enough for it. In his starts that he's had, he hasn't looked great at all. He hasn't been particularly impressive, but we have seen that when he comes off the bench, he can cause problems. We saw that on the weekend. We saw it against San Antonio. He's picked up 2 goals now off the bench. And if you keep bringing him in that kind of a role there, that last kind of 10 minutes of a game, and hope that he can kind of get an opportunity, knock one in the back of the net, I think that you've got someone here who could realistically end the season with 5 or 6 goals, which for a guy who came into the season as the 3rd striker is not a bad output.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I've liked Antwi since the preseason. I mentioned it to you and Edwin back in the day about that. And like we said earlier, he's only gotten around 200 minutes this season. He has 2 goals in 9 matches. There's questions about fitness that may be one of the reasons why maybe he's not apt to start the game. But when he comes in spurts, and I feel like he plays really hard, he gives us his all. And he was given an opportunity on Saturday night, and he made the best of it. He's the only other player for Rising that has scored, I believe, outside the box, him or Quinn as well. So he just gives you many dimensions. He can play on the ground. He can, shoot from outside the area. He's physical. He'll run. So I like him a lot, and I just wish he got a little bit more playing time.
All right, Greg Hurst. I'll give this one away for later. The only guy I believe I gave an A to.
Yes.
In the whole thing. So Greg Hurst gets an A from me. Look, recently not the best, but overall this season, one of the few bright spots has been that he seems to have stepped up to the championship all right. He's adapted in terms of goal scoring. Look, 5 isn't a huge number, right? I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But in the context of where the team is right now, that could be a lot worse. And I don't feel that he's necessarily been getting the service that he should have been getting either. So that number could be higher if he was in a better circumstances, let's say. He's got 3 assists as well. Look, I just feel like we can't blame all this team's struggles on its centre forwards. I feel like there's a lot more to blame here. And so when you're pretty much the leading goal scorer on the team, he is tied actually with Luis Seijas. But for centre forward, I personally would give him an A over the season so far. I feel that, he could have done a lot worse. And in a pretty bad season, he's my one little bright spot there.
Yeah, no, I think he's been the best player for Rising this season, and that just speaks to the quality of player that he is. I did have a question for you, Owen. You know how many touches he had on Saturday?
I don't off the top of my head. No, I'm guessing you've got this number in front of you.
He had 9 touches of the ball on Saturday.
9.
And I believe the week before that, or a couple of weeks before that, he only had 12. That is completely unacceptable for the best player and the guy that's getting you the goals, especially if you're going to keep Seijas on the bench or not even on the team. So he needs to get the ball. He needs to be involved in the buildup, and anything that Hurst touches, I believe, turns into gold. He's a great player. They need to give him the ball. And when your leading scorer is getting 9 touches in the game over the 60 minutes that he played, there's something wrong, because he should be getting the ball a lot more. And it's rough, and that, I would give him an A, but I feel like B+ is a solid one for him.
It just goes back to exactly what I was saying, which is, where on earth is the service, right? He's got the quality in front of goal. Get him the ball in good spots.
Exactly.
And it's what they're not doing right now. So that's why I'm forgiving that it's only 5 goals so far. Because if he was getting better service, I think it would be a much higher number. Right. Claudio Repetto. Speaking of service, a couple of goals early in the season. He's been a bit disappointing from there. It's not really been helped at all by the fact the team hasn't played to its strengths. And when they try and play to his strengths, they don't succeed because the crossing is, quite frankly, dire. The problem is that actually he's not doing quite as well in the air as well as he could. I'd be more forgiving if he was. But he's 1 under 45% of balls in the of aerial duels that he's been involved with. So I don't feel like I can give him much more than a C+ there, really.
Yeah, and that's why I went with the C as well, because I think it's a little unfair for him, just because, like you're saying, he's not getting the touches, he's not getting the service through the air. He was expected to play a certain way, but Rising can't play that way. So how is it, Repetto's fault? So I'll be a little lenient with him because of that. But yeah, I certainly hope that he picks it up in the second half of the season.
All right, and the last one on here, because obviously we're not going to touch on Lamine Jane. We've not seen anywhere near enough of him to give him a grade. We didn't even know when these were first put together that
these were made last week. Yeah, so just a little heads up. But last one,
Marcus Epps. So I went with a D+. And look, in some ways, Marcus's numbers are not that bad compared to the team as a whole. He's second in chances created, behind only Aidan Quinn and Greg Hurst in assists. His crossing isn't quite as bad as some of the other players that we're talking about today, but the absolute numbers aren't great. Okay, and there's a lot of frustration about how he's playing and his indecisiveness, and we've kind of mentioned that as well with Jane, right? That's Rick saying about, he's decisive, and it feels almost like it's kind of a bite at Epps there, isn't it? But Look, the reason I went with a D plus, I know you went with a D, but I'm not quite as harsh as you here because I guess I never really expected him to be Solo's replacement.
Ooh, okay.
I never really expected him to be able to live up to that mantle because it's such a big mantle. Um, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
as far as Marcus, I think given the expectations, that's why my grade is a little bit harsher. I honestly was really excited to see how he could follow up his performance against Las Vegas with the game at last Saturday against Orange County, because I saw him be more decisive and actually create passes and actually be a little bit more of the Marcus that we've seen in these highlight reels that we from San Antonio. So it's that, and for him not to be able to play due to injury, I was a little disappointed because I think it would have been a perfect game for him to be there and maybe create some chances. So, hopefully, again, like Repetto, he can pick it up in the second half.
Yeah, so let's just have a quick look at some of the comments here, which is that we got Michael saying that he feels that Marcus was better than Santi this season. Yeah, I can see an argument for that.
Mhm.
But also then McVie saying that Epps is his pick for worst flop. We had a C for Claudio there from Fire Shantz, a C for Epps from Michael. There's a few other things here. Side bet, will any player get an F? Thomas Rice says. Is he
I
voted
don't think I
Madrid?
gave enough.
I don't think just yeah, I'll be clear here. I don't think any player gets an F today. We didn't do that. Again, as the kind of disclaimer in the beginning, that would really require, I think, is to say, right, this guy is responsible for multiple losses and doesn't really have any redeeming characteristics this season. And I don't think we quite thought any one individual was that bad so as to deserve it. It was a pretty bad team effort as a whole. So
For
should
sure.
we move on to the next lot, which is the midfielders?
Let's do it.
Right.
Let's
So
go right.
Aiden Quinn. Aiden Quinn.
I was a little harsh
Aiden,
with that one. You made me feel bad with your B plus.
yeah, so Aiden's an awkward case, right? Because visibly, you kind of watch him play and you go, "Oh, he's not playing with the same intensity he always has." It's doesn't feel like he's quite the Aiden of the past year, perhaps.
Mhm.
But when you actually look at the stats, he's scored 4 goals. He's pretty much one of the few reasons that Rising saved any face on that last road trip. And he's also second in the entire league in chances created. And I know we had a comment in here saying you got to be careful around the chances created. Obviously, not all chances are created equally,
Mhm.
but he's second in the league, right? So the technical ability is still there, no matter what you think about anything else. He's clearly still got the ability there to spray it around when he needs to, and he is. It's just that I don't know. It's a bit of a mixed bag.
No, yeah, for sure. I think the clear example of what Quinn brings to the table is that first goal that Rising had. He gave a beautiful pass over to Darnell King, which set him up perfectly to get into the box and ultimately get the goal for Rising. So uh we know Quinn is hurt. You've said that a couple times, and Rick has as well. So is he playing at 100%? I don't think so. Yeah, and it's it's kind of hard to give him some rest because he's so needed. And so I don't know if he'll ever get to 100 this season, but yeah, he's indispensable. I think he's a key component to the team, and like you're saying, without him during that last road trip, Rising would have been in a worse situation. So I think my B minus is a little harsh, but I'd probably give him a B plus, solid B.
All right, Arturo Rodriguez. We've seen a bit of that indecisiveness this season that we were told in the off season he was trying to work past. Okay, we have seen that. Now, of course, he's injured now. He's going to be out for a few more weeks. He's been out for a little while. Despite all that, he has created a fair share of chances while he was fit.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in the 2 games prior to Hartford, where he kind of, really didn't look particularly well. He didn't last very long. Sorry. He made it about half hour into that game before he went off injured. He actually had assists in those 2 games prior. So I do have reason to believe that he was slowly starting to turn that ship around a bit. But the problem there is of course, then he picks up the injury. And I do worry now when he comes back, is he going to be having taken 2 steps back when he'd taken that 1 step forward?
Yeah, definitely for sure. I felt like Arturo had a little bit more to give before that injury. I feel like you're exactly how you're saying he was coming up and he was finding his rhythm, and unfortunately, the injury took over. But I'll say this about Arturo: it makes me appreciate him more. And this is no slight to Koze whatsoever, but when you have Arturo in the middle, I feel like it opens up the entire game for the forwards, and it kind of connects the midfield and the forwards more to play more fluidly. And like, again, no slight to Koze, but I feel without Arturo, they're having a tough time with that. And so I think he's sorely needed in the lineup. So C plus for me. I feel like he could have done a little bit more better, but yeah, definitely, I wouldn't be upset with the B either.
All right, Luis Seijas, the old man of the midfield. He actually has looked a bit better in the tackle, I think, than I personally expected him to do this
Mhm,
season. And he did kickstart the team earlier in the year when they were struggling and they needed someone to be blasting those efforts from range, and he did that,
mhm,
and it worked for them. But in some of the midfield trios, he still hasn't quite clicked right. And maybe that's harsh to blame him for the fact that he's been put alongside people where it doesn't work. But to me, that's still enough just about to knock him off from the A. I feel like, again, good performances, but just kind of needs to be maybe that a little bit more consistent.
mhm.
And then you'd see him creep up into the A.
I mean, if he was being able to, if he was put on the 18, maybe he'd get a little bit more consistency. But yeah, I think I'd go
Maybe if
with the
they
B.
didn't forget
Yeah.
him out of the player pool. Yeah, be a good start.
Yeah, I give him a B. He's definitely saved Rising season a few times now, especially with that one of those late strikes that he had earlier in the season. So I wish we could see more of him on the field. So I feel sometimes like when he's playing, he might get lost once in a while, or maybe he's not able to hang on as far as the entire 90 minutes anymore, given to his age. But he's solid. He shows why he played in Europe and why he has such a great reputation in South America. So I can't complain, and hopefully he continues to play a little bit more.
Right, this next one I've changed my mind on.
Uh-oh. Read the comments,
Yeah, here
huh?
we go. Here we go. No, 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 no. But Carlos Anguiano, I've changed my mind. I'm going with a D plus for Carlos.
Okay.
He's rarely seen the pitch for any length of time, so maybe that's harsh. But everyone raves about his distribution. But you look at his passing accuracy, it's not remarkable by any stretch. And he's created very little in the way of chances, right?
Hmm.
And he's also not a big physical presence in the midfield. He's won less than 40% of his duels.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I was debating whether to go with a C minus or the D plus because the lack of playing time makes it harsh sometimes to drop a guy that deep, and the way that he's been put into the midfields as well. Yeah, but I don't know. The passing's not there, the physicality's not there, and as a result of that, the playing time's not there. Um, I don't know. It's
No, I agree with you. Creatively, I don't think he has what it takes to have a starting position and or to get any real substitute minutes because, like you're saying, physically he's one of the smallest guys on the field. He's gonna get overrun. From what I've seen, and I could be wrong, I want to do a little bit more research on this, but his passing is always kind of side to side and not really moving the ball forward. And if there are turnovers in the midfield, his speed doesn't allow him to kind of catch up to other players. So I feel he's just been given a tough hand, and not that he's done anything crazy wrong for him to be given a D or an F, but I just don't feel like he fits the scheme of things as far as the team or the league. So it's tough. I've liked him, especially in that Sacramento game. I think he came in and he played pretty decently, but you could just tell maybe physically or speed wise, he just doesn't have what it takes.
all right. Kev Lambert. So Kev's been messed around a little bit this season, you know? He's been played in different positions. He's struggled with injuries. He's been off on international duty, and it makes consistency hard. But at the same time, when he's in this squad, what we're seeing is someone who wins over 60% of his drills. He
Mhm.
wins over 75% of balls in the air. And when he was dropped into the back line, he did kind of bring a bit of a spark to that back line. So to me, he's had a pretty decent season overall. We're just a little bit hamstrung by his absences at times. I'd personally give Kev a B plus. And I'm intrigued what you've got to say on this one, Ramon.
No, I agree, and he's not playing. He didn't play his natural position at the start of the season just due to injuries to Musa and I believe Madrid as well. So yeah, he's just the guy that is going to give it his all. He's a great player. That's the reason Jamaica calls him up for to represent the national team, and he's just a great player. And so I could definitely see the difference in the team whenever he's on the field than when he's not on it. And so without without Lambert, I feel Rising they would be in a worse spot. So we'll see what happens. He's consistent. I'll give him that. And so hopefully, he's able to keep that going.
All right. And the last one on here, and this will be a pretty quick one, I'm sure. Iracoze Donaciano. So we've not seen too much of him. Came in on loan. I understand his role. I understand why he came in. All of that. Look, there've been flashes where he's kind of caught my interest, but I've yet to really see anything that even approaches a complete performance out of him, which is understandable, really, given the circumstances. He's not really played of any real note for the past year or so coming into Rising, but look, the team needs him to step up right now, and they need him to step up pretty quickly because right now things need to turn around.
Yeah, no, and I give him a C. I haven't been really too impressed with anything that he's done, and we talked about it when he had signed. It's a little bit of everything, not really great at one thing, and he kind of shows it on the field. He's stepping up though in Arturo's absence, and hopefully he's able to get a goal or two. I think maybe that'll help his confidence a little bit as well. But I think the chemistry is not there yet, and he's just not that difference maker that maybe we were hoping for him to be. So we'll see. Hopefully he can turn it up.
All right, are we ready? Oh, hang on a minute. Scott needs to pour a medicinal whiskey before we start on the defenders.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, I'm quite tempted. There's some 4 Peaks in the fridge. I'm quite tempted to walk
around.
Go
get some. Yeah.
No.
I got my.
Let's kick on. Come on, let's kick on. Let's get on with this. Let's move on to the defense. So there's a lot of people on here. This will be a long one, right? Ryan Flood. I'll try and bash through these pretty quickly.
So you were pretty tough in the D. Yeah, go for it.
I was, but right, Ryan Flood, he's in and out and in and out. It's complicated at left back, isn't it? Right? Positionally, he's a bit questionable. Possessionally, he's a bit questionable. His passing accuracy isn't great, but he can win the ball and he can create some chances as well. I mean, you just get into that point where it's like, is he really a fullback? And this is going to be a theme as we go through these, by the way, which is that Rick Shantz brings in wingers and tells them that they're fullbacks. Okay, so when we talk about people getting caught, we've always got to remember that. We've always got to remember the playing style as a whole and what it does for people. Yeah. But hey, I give Ryan a C. Again, we haven't necessarily seen enough of him this year to give him much higher, and I feel there's a lot of other factors at play.
For sure. Moving on to Darnell King, I give him a C- after the last performance against Orange County. I feel like he played okay. He had a pretty decent game against Orange County, so I'd kind of moving up to a C now. But there's expectations, and I'll kind of segue because I'll kind of add to the expectations that we're at for Marcus Epps, and I apply that to Darnell King because he's a captain. People were expecting a little bit more out of him. He's shown what it takes to be, the clear example of him being the captain and that leadership was in that New Mexico game where he led all those, the academy kids. And, even though they got beat, he was there and he was, showing why he was the captain. So on the field, though, there's a little bit more to be desired. So hopefully he's able to pick it up. But yeah, just I was expecting a little bit more from Darnell King, but I see you give him a C+.
Yeah, I gave him a C+ simply for the fact that, look, yes, he's caught out of position a fair bit, but look, the system exposes him to that. What you find is that he actually wins more than he loses in terms of all tackles, duels, aerial duels, and he's one of the few players that, at least relative to each other, seems to cross the ball with any degree of success in this team. If you actually look, his crossing accuracy is 33%, okay? So, in that sense, yeah, I feel like we got to give him that. But all right, moving on. Channing Chasen. I couldn't give him anything other than a C because this guy has completed 3 passes in the league this season on 3 attempts.
I thought those stats were wrong.
What on earth else can we give him? He's barely played and now he's out injured. So, hey, he gets a C, right?
Yeah,
Niall Dunn.
That's that. Yeah.
Niall Dunn, we don't give him anything, okay? Because funnily enough, when you're out injured, as long as he's been, and hopefully he's back soon. But yeah, Now, this one's going to cause some controversy. Manuel Madrid. I
You
went
gave
with
him
a
a
D
D
plus.
plus. Look at
You
you.
went with a D. Look, he's really good in the air. Okay, we've got to give him that. He is really good in the air, but he is slow. And I feel harsh giving him this one because it's Rick's system that's failing him. We knew who he was when he came in, and frankly, so should the team. And yet, here we are.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on from Manuel, if you want to comment on it now, do so. But there's a comment I want to get to from the chat as well on this.
Yeah, he's just been disappointed. I think given the injuries, he should have stepped up a little bit more, and he gave away that key penalty a few games ago. So and that gave him that straight red. So you can't have that at all. So it's tough. Not quite a D plus. So I'll just give him a D.
Yeah, I will say here, Scott Summers in the chat gave Manuel an F, saying that he is arguably the worst signing in PRFC history.
Oof.
Too slow, not fitting the system, can't use him in a back three. Look, I don't disagree that he's too slow. The problem is that whose fault is it that he's too slow for this system when they brought him in? You know what the system is. Why is he haven't like you're not shocked by how slow he is. We always knew he was. I don't know. Anyway, James Musa, C minus. Really struggling lately in terms of fitness, so I do feel a little bit harsh at commenting too much. But look, he's had some lapses, and maybe he can't be treated quite as harshly as Manuel because he's a little bit quicker than Manu, and
Mhm.
he's also had more injury problems to deal with this season. But hey, it's tough.
Yeah, no, for sure. Are we heading into Joe Farrell right now?
Let's do it. Let's do it. I want to see what you have to say.
I'm just gonna, kind of point to what Pat is saying here. I love Farrell, but this year is showing what he is. He's a good number 3 center back, but not a number 1 or number 2 on a championship caliber team. Yeah, and I love Joe. He's been a stalwart of rising, and it's tough, man. Like I don't think he's had the best season yet. I don't feel like, and this applies to the entire team. Like he's not been put in a position to kind of show his strengths and been, with rising to playing the way they are is just not conducive to his play style. So yeah, it's just tough for him, but I feel like he could have done a little bit more.
Okay, so here's what I'll say. You have to bear in mind that he still leads the team in interceptions. He's
Mhm.
second in blocks. He's top in clearances. But I'll say, yeah, he's been indecisive at times in the transition. Really indecisive. And you see that indecisiveness costing them. It does cost them at times. I'm not going to suggest that he's some guy like a Damian Lowe or that kind of level, but we know that Joe Farrell is better than what he has been this season.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
frustrating,
Mhm.
very frustrating to not see him playing up to that level that we know that he's capable of.
Yeah.
Right, moving on. Now, this is one where we disagreed a reasonable bit here on Babu Kajai. So, Ramon, you went positive. Let's go with positive first.
So I'm giving him a B mostly because of the offensive attributes that he's been contributing. I feel like there's times where he just kind of takes the game over with a few runs and he's able to bypass a few defenders. Now, what happens after he gets by these defenders is another conversation, but I feel like he's able to kind of be a little bit more of a threat. Defensively, there's sometimes like with most of the rising defense, he's caught out of position. And again, we've talked about the fact that the system kind of uses him to be that person to move up and maybe kind of forget about the defense for a little bit. But when you don't have the personnel to take care of the defense for you, it makes it tough to play that position. And I feel like it's been rough, but I feel like he's been one of the best defensive people, mostly because of his offensive attributes.
I'm still confused as to what we want his role to be. Is he overcommitting and being too aggressive up the field, leaving
Mhm.
issues at the back? Or is he being wasted in a defensive role? As Rick even put it kind of himself by saying he's trying to ram a square peg into a round hole. That comment that he made before Loudon that was very clearly about Babu.
Yeah.
Look, if his crossing was a bit better, maybe I'd have gotten him up to where you've gone.
Hmm.
But I don't feel that I can. Look, it's a hard one. I feel like he's been harmed quite badly by a lack of direction as to
Mm.
what exactly it is that he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I
I don't
didn't mind
know.
him in that Loudon game when he was playing up top. Like he looked fine. Like so maybe not. Why not try him again? So we'll see.
Well, I'm sure there's a reason for that, and it's that there's a lack of depth comparatively in the fullback positions.
No, for sure. Let's see. The next one over here is Sievert Haugli. This one was tough for me because
people are not liking what we've gone with here. They want him to be rated much more harshly.
I feel he's a lot better playing as a defensive midfielder. That was my take from seeing him play. I don't know how you feel. I know he prefers to play center back, but what do you think?
I can see the argument there. Look, the only reason to me here is that the expectations for Sievert Haugli are low.
Yeah.
We didn't have any expectations for him, right? His expectations aren't as big as his height. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, for sure.
But he's not good enough to be starting.
No, for
Look,
sure.
I just feel as though, hey, we haven't seen a huge amount of him, and it's just been, eh.
Yeah.
Right, we're kicking on. We've wasted a lot of time on this. Let's keep going. Let's go with the goalkeepers.
All right, we'll do quick goalkeepers. Well, so we have Lalo Delgado. Not too much. Can't really complain too much about him. I feel like he could have played a lot better against New Mexico, but given the circumstances, can't really fault him.
Yeah, pretty much. It was an awkward one. We've barely seen him. Not necessarily a huge shock. Yeah, you can't really give him much different to a C.
Ben Lunt, B+. Is this the only one we agreed in? Because I would have given him an A, but I just feel like none of the players, at least at this point in the season, deserve an A. So without Lunt, though, I think Rising just fall off. No, he
100%
literally won them points, especially against San Antonio. So
that's why a lot of the people just quickly. That's why a lot of the people who were saying, for example, you have to play Lalo as a perfect example. Look. You can't put any real blame, I think, for a lot of these on Lund. There've been individual goals that maybe he shouldn't have conceded, but I don't think you can really put blame for results on Lund. And so, look, I know we want to see more rotation sometimes. We want to see guys who haven't been given a chance, but it's tough to justify dropping Lund.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, let's move on. Finish up over here.
The coach.
Oh, okay. Well, let me talk about my D+, and you'll get to your F, and I'm sure everybody will know why. But I just feel like Rick has been dealt a tough hand this season. Injuries, players not playing up to potential, and I know he brings them in. I understand that argument, but I think the injuries hit the team pretty hard early in the season, and now in May and June. So I feel like because of that, I can't give him an F because it's not. I don't feel like it's completely on him, but it's a D+ for me. All right, Owen, go ahead.
Okay.
Come on, Pat.
Let's talk about this one now. Right. He's bad. It's been bad this season. And I don't look, people might think, yeah, we like talking about this kind of stuff. We don't. Like you have no idea how hard it is covering teams that are bad. But the F here effectively stands for, to borrow a phrase that Rick likes to use a lot, I'm going to say that he's coaching with fear right now. That's what we've seen these past few games. It's what we've seen when he's throwing stuff at the wall and just hoping that something's going to stick. It's what we've seen when game after game you see, look, we can't blame people for the fact that it takes some time to adjust to a brand new formation that's been chucked on them at the last minute, and then you change it again the following week. Like, these things are all really complicated things. Yeah, it takes players time. It takes players time to adjust to new systems.
Yeah.
And I feel as though the system itself right now isn't working with these players. That is something that was entirely foreseeable. I fear that there is an increasing negativity growing inside that locker room. Whether you want to point to all the players or not, I'm sure there are players that still back him in there, but there are definitely some players who do not back him in there. We can see it on the field, and we hear it as well. We've got to be realistic here. I know that I've been hearing bits and pieces. Ramon, I know that you've been hearing bits and pieces.
Yeah.
It's just not good. And look, at the end of the day, my fear and my serious fear here now is that Rick Shantz has had some good times at this club. And yet, time and time again, what you see with football managers is they overstay their welcome when it becomes clear that time is kind of passed them by. My worry is that he's going to sour those memories by hanging on, and that the ownership aren't going to really do anything. And it's just going to sour those positive memories, because instead what you're going to have is 2 or 3 months of people insisting that he leaves. Yeah. And so when they think back then about what Rick Shantz did and what he achieved at this club, and he has achieved a fair amount at this club, but people are going to think of the bad times. And I don't think anyone wants to think of the bad times when you think of that. But
yeah,
I don't know. I just...
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah. And like you're saying, we don't like to talk about this. We don't like to give out these grades, but it's just the reality of it. And and that's how it is sometimes. So all right, Owen, thank you for your fair grades. I feel like they're pretty, I call them fair. I don't know about the chat. I don't know.
I'll take it. I'll take it. There we
go. But yeah, we'll hopefully, we'll do some end of the season grades as well. So hopefully these go up considerably by the time we do that again. All right, Owen, going a little bit long here. So I just want to talk about our friends at DraftKings really quickly. There's actually some games you can bet on tomorrow on DraftKings for USL Championship. We got 4 games on the schedule tomorrow. Pittsburgh versus Indy 11, Atlanta United 2 versus Birmingham Legion, Detroit City against Hartford, and then New Mexico against RGV Toro. So if you were to ask me, if I'm on DraftKings right now, I put some money on the Pittsburgh Riverhounds over Indy 11. I feel Indy 11 is not playing really well right now. I don't know what happened these past 3 weeks, but kind of fallen off a little bit. So I put my money on that one. And also Detroit.
Well, Indy, of course, did make a move today, didn't they? They sent Noah Powder over to Tulsa and brought themselves in a goalkeeper in his place. So
we'll see. We'll see if that helps things.
There's moves being made there. But let's take a quick look. I grabbed the odds now. Talking about DraftKings. Let's have a look. What do I think will be a... Tell you what, I'm struggling. I kind of want to take the favorites in each of these games. That's my problem right here. I don't think that Indy will get a result in Pittsburgh. I don't think it'll happen. Although maybe they will, because Pittsburgh have struggled a bit lately as well.
They played really well last game, I think.
You know what? Let's go. I've got to go with something that's clearly got plus money there. So I'm going to say the draw on that game. Pittsburgh to draw with Indy 11 at plus 320.
Ooh, look at that one. What's Detroit looking like?
Which game, sorry? Detroit?
Detroit, yeah. Hartford at Detroit.
Detroit are the favorites at minus 115.
Take that one. I would take it. I think they played really well against Las Vegas a couple of days ago. So definitely make you some money. So if you guys want to make some bets along with us, you guys can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PHNX, make your first deposit, and get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code PHNX only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. And make sure to see the show notes for all the details. All right, Owen. We went pretty long today with these grades. We
did. I almost feel like now I need to go and crack open a 4 Peaks now, actually.
For sure. And
it's been a long slog going through all of those. There's a lot of opinions shared. I'm sure some of them are welcome, some of them are not.
For sure. And we appreciate all the comments. Yeah. I know some of you guys were roasting us, but we appreciate you guys being here. And you guys have really great takes as well. So always appreciate you putting in the work in the comments, and always love to see you here every Tuesday and Thursday. Well, Wednesday this week. So speaking of 4 Peaks, if you guys are able to, there's going to be a PHNX Coyotes draft day live party at 4 Peaks on 8th Street. So if you guys want to head over there and hang out with the PHNX Coyotes crew, you guys can do it on July 7th at 4 p.m. at the 4 Peaks 8th Street pub. And you must be 21 years or older, and make sure to enjoy responsibly. So if you guys want to check them out, you guys can head over there.
It's Thursday, that one. So, yeah.
So it'd be fun. All right, y'all. That is it for us. Any last thoughts, Owen?
We'll see you again tomorrow. Surprisingly quickly.
Wednesday, Wacky Wednesday. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a great rest of your evening. And until then, until tomorrow, be well, stay safe.